Listen, I'm not someone who believes you have to finish every single book that you start. If you don't like the book, if it's not sparking that joy, or you're not loving it, it's okay to put it down, maybe come back to it later, or just not read it at all. It might not just be for you. But every once in a while, there are books that just don't click. You can tell it's well written. You know it's good, and technically speaking, but subjectively, you are just not loving and adoring it. Every once in a while, that is still worth reading for what is to come. I did not love Empire of Silence. It was a book that was really hard for me to get through. I think it was well written, and I think it's actually entertaining enough. I don't think it's a bad book by any means, but it is not a book that I would want to read 7 more books of. But I've heard so many great things about the Sun Eater series, and I hear and heard that this book is the worst of those. And I was like, you know what? Let's go ahead and let's see if this is worth actually getting through. I finished this first book, and by the end of it, I was interested enough to see, okay, well, how does this get that much better? And so pretty much immediately, I started Howling Dark. This book starts kind of in a similar fashion for me that Empire of Silence did. I was thinking that this is kind of slow. It starts off a little bit quicker. It starts off kind of, I don't want to say in media res, but in a way that you are kind of automatically into some form of action, and it's entertaining, to say the least. But then it slows down for most of the first half of this book. But the second half of Howling Dark is, I think, one of the most entertaining sci-fi things I've ever experienced, whether that be books, video games, TV shows, movies, whatever, anything of that ilk. I absolutely adore the second half of this book, and the way that it ramps up in sort of the climax is wild. There are really interesting questions that are brought forth in Howling Dark, and it's setting up something that, from what I hear, sticks the landing. And so I'm going to continue reading this series. But I think if you are told, or if you've heard anything about the Sun Eater series, you hear it's this grand space epic, this space opera, and it is that. But when you read Empire of Silence, it does not feel like that at all. It feels very intimate, feels pretty small, which is not a bad thing. I actually am not a big fan of every single book or every single film having to deal with crazy world-ending sort of plot lines. Like, it's okay to have plots that are much more small and intimate, and the stakes don't have to be super high or the biggest you could imagine. But this is more like Gladiator. This is just kind of a simpler story, which is not bad. It's entertaining enough, as I've said before. But if you're someone who has been looking for something like Mass Effect, something to scratch that itch of a wide, expansive space story with really interesting characters, with cool sort of aesthetics. I know it's a book, but you know what I mean. This is it. This is scratching the itch for Dune, Star Wars. It's scratching the itch for all of the kind of Warhammer stuff that I love. I think the end of this book has a lot of that great Last Stand kind of stuff that I love in Warhammer. I really get a lot of major Mass Effect vibes from Howling Dark, and I missed that so much. I miss Mass Effect. I love that original trilogy so much, and so to be able to be really deep into this world, and trying to understand the way that the space operates, the way that these different aliens or civilizations sort of interact, and how they interact, and trying to interact for the first time, and it is scratching that itch so incredibly well. And I am someone who likes to do palate cleanser books. Typically, if I read a longer book, something around, 500 to 700 pages, or say even if longer, if you're going into like The Way of Kings or Stormlight Archive, I like to grab something small, something that is going to be a much quicker read. And so like I have a lot of Blake Crouch books, or something that will kind of be my palate cleanser book. I kind of want to read We Are Legion, We Are Bob as a palate cleanser. This is interesting enough as is that I don't think I really need one. I think I'm going to hop straight into the third book, Demon in White. And that is crazy for me, because before I reached the halfway point, I was thinking I may have made a mistake and for not reading something between these two books. But now I'm to the point of where I think I'm going straight into Demon in White. And that says a lot for me in terms of how much I'm liking this series. And so I'm really excited. I'm happy I started this, and I'm really happy that I didn't give up on the series after this book. Like I said, there's probably a point in this where I could have DNF'd it. Our boy Hadrian Marlowe in this, he's a yapper, man. He likes to just say what he thinks, and he has a lot of thoughts and a lot of opinions on different things. And so it may be a slog to get through, but I think even for the second book alone, it's kind of worth it. And there are moments from this book that kind of pop back up and help define Hadrian as a character in a way that some of the most meaningful moments in this book are affected by, or wouldn't be as heavy or impactful if it wasn't for events in this book. And it might not be the moments that you would expect or think of. It's not the climax of this book, to me, while it drives the plot of Howling Dark, the heart and soul of this book is really the first couple of chapters, and how that connects and affects this story in terms of an emotional level. And so I think right now that Howling Dark is going to be one of my favorite books that I've read this year. And I don't know, sometimes something that's going to be a DNF turns into I'm going to finish the entire series. And, there's no way I can finish the entire series before the end of the year, but we're going to be pretty close. I think I'm going to continue reading this until its end. And thankfully, the series is over. It's done. And I can hop into it and not have to wait for eternity. So anyways, have you read any of the Sun Eater books? Have you read these two books? Have you read Empire of Silence and didn't start it or didn't finish it? Let me know what you think in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you. But for now, that's all. Take it easy.